Alrighty, today we're going on to a new topic. Well, similar but new. We are doing volume. I can use a formula for the volume of a sphere and a hemisphere to solve problems. So, today our focus is on spheres and hemispheres. And a sphere is a basketball. Let's think about it that way, because that's an easy thing to think of. A globe, maybe, of the world. And do you remember what the word hemi means? Probably not, but a lot of you, if you'll think about a truck, a hemi is a half-ton truck. Well, a hemisphere is half of a sphere. So, with that being said, we are going to look at this mathematics chart again. We have done a cylinder, which was big BH. Then we did a cone, which is 1/3 big BH. And then now we have a sphere, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. Now, it's very, 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 very important, like I've said before, that 1/3, you might have gotten away with it before because there's a 1 there, but now you have a 4 as your numerator, and you will not get away with putting 4/3 in your calculator unless you use alpha F1 or you put that 4/3 in parentheses. Okay, so remember that we have no big B here, which is really nice because then we don't have to refer to this area up here where the area of our base is a big B. Well, guess what? We've got pi times r cubed as the area of our base this time, okay? And they just give it to us. All right, so here we go. Notes, volume of spheres and hemispheres. Volume, the number of cubic units needed to fill a solid. So it's not a solid, it's something that you can put inside. Sphere, the set of all points in space that are the same distance from the center point. I know that's kind of a complicated definition, all right? Let's just think of it as when you're thinking about a sphere, you're thinking about a basketball. The formula, V equals 4/3 pi r cubed, and that's how you say that. You don't say r to the 3rd power. You can, but to sound really like you know your mathematics, you want to say r cubed, okay? The power of 3 means cubed, okay? So we have an r still. What does r do? Does everybody remember? R is the radius, okay? And if we are given a diameter, what do we have to do to the diameter to find radius? We have to divide it by 2 to find the radius. And remember, diameter is all the way across, while radius is halfway across, okay? So, we're going to look at what these look like using the find the volume to the nearest tenth, okay? So, remember, there are steps. And I know you people don't like to write them down because you got a calculator, but I want to see your steps. And if you don't write down your steps, then guess what? I'm going to hand you back your paper and you're going to get a 0. So if you like zeros in the grade book, then don't write down your steps. Do all your work in your calculator, okay? It's not too much to ask. That calculator is doing all those hard computations for you, so you don't have to do the mathematics piece anymore, all right? So we're looking at a sphere. Do we have an R or do we have a D? Hopefully you said R, so R equals 11. I'm going to write down V equals, parentheses, 4/3 times pi times r cubed. Then I'm going to write down what I'm going to put in my calculator, 4/3 times pi times, I have r, which is 11 cubed. Now, it says the volume is approximately, so what we are going to do is we are just going to find the volume, because that approximation is because we're using the pi button. Do not use 3. Do not use 3.14. Okay, so here we go. I've got parentheses, 4 divided by 3 parentheses times second pi times 11. Now this is where you're going to have to learn to use your power up button. If it's a squared, always use this. But if it's bigger than 2, then you're going to have to use your power up button. And why do I see how you're staying up in what I call exponent land? You got to get out of exponent land and then hit enter. So we are rounding to the nearest tenth. I'm going to write 5575 point. The nearest tenth. Remember, if you wrote 10 cents, that 1 would be in the first place next to your decimal. So here's your tenths place, but we have to look at the hundredths place to have it tell us what we're going to do. So 5 or more, change the score. So I'm going to make that a 3. Okay? And that is what it is, 4/3 times pi times 11 cubed. Okay? Now, let's go on to over here. We're going to try one more. This is real simple. This time we have a D, a diameter. Okay? So I'm going to take my diameter, which is, my D is 28, so I'm going to take 28 and divide it by 2 to figure out what my R is. So in my calculator, 28 divided by 2, I find out that it's 14. So I got R is equal to 14. All I need to do now is first step, write down my formula. Oh, I forgot it. Well, guess where it is? You guys need to start using this darn thing, okay? I don't see it out when you're working. You guys just assume you know it, and you don't. Okay, the paper where we were going back and forth between cylinders and cones, a lot of you are having to redo that paper because you weren't looking at your formula chart. You just did the same thing for a cylinder that you do for a cone, and that's not going to work. Okay, so here we go. V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Now I'm going to write out what I'm going to put in my calculator, parentheses, 4/3 times pi times, my R was 14 cubed. So now I'm going to put that in my calculator, and I'm going to do parentheses 4 divided by 3 parentheses times second pi times 14 to the power of 3. Get out of exponent land and hit enter. All right, rounding it to the nearest tenth. This time I've got 11494. I'm going to write that 11494 decimal. And this time I've got a 0 in my tenth spot and a 4 in my hundredth spot. So this hundredth says let it rest because it's 4 or less, let it rest. So I'm just going to write my 0. Right? All right. Example number 2. Spaceship Earth is at Epcot Center in Florida and is a 184-foot geosphere. That is the same as a sphere, okay? The whole thing. A geosphere is a globe. Find the volume by assuming its sphere with a diameter of 180 feet. So D is equal to 180 feet. So I'm going to do 180 divided by 2 is equal to, I'm going to figure that out, 180 divided by 2, 90. So my R is equal to 90, okay? And I'm going to rewrite that just so I remember it. All right, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write my formula. V is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Now I'm going to put parentheses, 4/3 times pi times r, which is 90 cubed. This is going to be a really big number because that 90 cubed, that's 90 times 90 times 90. That's a lot. So parentheses, 4 divided by 3 parentheses times, I hope you're putting this in your calculator. A lot of you just sit there and you copy what I write, and then when you go to do it, you're like, I don't know what to do. Well, if you'd been putting it in your calculator when I was, you might know what to do. I know I'm constantly griping, aren't I? Pi times, kind of like your mother. Divide up to the power of 3, get out of exponent land, and hit enter. Ooh, look at this number. We're going to round this to the nearest tenth. 3053628 decimal. Okay, what are you going to do? Round it to the nearest tenth. Hundreds place, 5 or more, change the score to 1. Okay? It is approximately, remember it is not exact because we are using pi. All right, back of the page, hemisphere. So if a sphere is the whole kit and caboodle, a hemisphere is half. All right? So a hemisphere is half of a sphere. So let's think about, how do we half anything? Because on my formula chart, I don't see anything that says hemisphere. Do you see hemisphere? I didn't think so. I can't find it. So I need to know that I take my formula for a sphere. I take V is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed, and I need half of it, so I'm going to divide by 2. Okay? All right, here we go. Oh, do we have a D or an R? Hope you said D. So I've got 24 divided by 2 is equal to, well, if you don't know that, you need to put it in your calculator. R is equal to 12. Okay? So now I'm going to do V is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed divided by 2. Parentheses, 4/3 times pi times r. Oh, that's not times r. What is my r? Hopefully you said 12 cubed divided by 2. Okay? And it works. The calculator knows what to do. As long as you put those parentheses in, you will get the correct answer. Okay? All right, because the calculator automatically does PEMDAS. So 4 divided by 3, parentheses, times second pi times 12 to the power of 3. Get out of exponent. If you don't get out of exponent land, what's going to happen? I'll show you. Divided by 2. Do you see how it's doing it up there in exponent land? You're not going to get the right answer, because that takes 12 to the power of 3 halves. Okay? And you don't need that. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to get out of exponent land and do divided by 2. And I get 3,619 point. Now this doesn't say what to round it to, so we're just going to go to the nearest tenth. And 0.11, 1 says let it rest, so I'm just going to let it rest at 0.1. Okay? All right, last one in your examples. Okay? Here we go. All right, is this R or a D? It's an R. Okay? V equals 4/3 pi r cubed divided by 2, because it's half of a sphere. Okay? I've got parentheses, 4/3 times pi times, my r is 27 cubed divided by 2. Okay? Put it all in at once if you'd like. We've got parentheses, 4 divided by 3, parentheses, times second pi times 27 to the power of 3. And I'm in exponent land. Get out of exponent land by hitting the arrow over button. Okay? Divided by 2. And my answer, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. This 7, oh, this is a complicated one because it changes the score here, which is going to change the score here. I'm going to write it here because this is really complicated to get it to the nearest tenth. Some of you are really good at this, some of you aren't. So this changes this, and then we would have to change this. So 4124.0. Okay? All right, today you have a short, quick practice to do. Okay? It's practice of spheres and hemispheres. A spherical ball is a sphere. Then you have some hemispheres and spheres mixed in. On the back you have some more. If you see the word hemi in a word problem, it is half of a sphere. Otherwise, it is a whole sphere. Make sure you are writing your 2 steps down every time. This is only 2. Last time it was 3. And that is all I have for today.